Johnny here from BCRC again with another how-to video. Now today's video is pretty simple, which is good. We're essentially going to be talking about endpoints, which is when your steering turns, the end of its turn. Okay, we're going to be talking about setting that up and why you need to do it. We're also going to have a quick look at installing a clamp style servo horn on your servo. So first things first, we need to go to our radio. Make sure all of our settings are in the middle, essentially. So your trims need to be centered. Set your EPA, dual rate, etc. to 100%. Once you do that, then you can turn your truck on and your servo is now centered. That is the most important thing to start with. If you don't do this and you attach your servo horn, this servo may not be centered, so you'll turn your truck on and then your wheels will all of a sudden turn, and that is what it considers to be the center point, which obviously is not. So go to your radio, make sure everything's centered, your EPA's on 100, your dual rate's on 100. If you haven't got an idea of how to do this with your radio, go to Google the make and model of your radio with a space and then PDF. You should be able to find the manual for your radio online. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is move my camera. We're going to install this servo horn and then we're going to look at setting the endpoints. Lovely. Okay, so we're at the point now where we can install our servo horn. We've got our electrics all centered and everything's lovely. So what do? Well, we center our steering as best we possibly can by eye. Then we want to slide the servo horn onto the spline. Okay, now we need to do up these little side bolts first. The reason we do this is so that they can actually squeeze tight on the spline. Now you don't need to over tighten them. They don't need to be crazy tight. Lovely. We just make sure that they're tight enough to sort of hold themselves there and have a good little squeeze on the spline there. Then we're going to install our front bolt. Lovely. Right, so that's got our servo horn installed. The next step is going to be setting our endpoints. So I'm going to move the camera yet again, and then we're going to set the endpoints so that we don't go breaking CVDs or dog bones. Lovely. Okay, so now it's time to set our endpoints. Lovely, good stuff. So on our radio, we're going to go to, I'll focus now on the radio, lovely, the EPA setting, which is your endpoint adjustment. Channel 1 is our steering, illustrated here with a little flashy 1. Okay, so we want channel 1. Now, if I steer to the right, I can now adjust this for more steering or less steering. Okay, now what's important to note is we can crank this all the way flat out and your steering's going to stop and you're going to think, yeah, I've got awesome lock. This is what's going to break your CVTs. You do not want your steering touching the diff. I know you want the lock, but you do not want this that tight. That's how you break CVTs. So if we look back at our radio, we're going to wind the steering back so we've got a gap about yay big. Okay, the most important thing is when you accelerate, you don't have any chattering. Now I'm fortunate with this truck that I can squeeze full lock and not get chatter. But I know myself, if I keep the steering lock like that, I'm going to break something. So gladly I will wind it back. We'll go to 95%. Now I'll steer the other way. I'm going to wind that down to 95%. Now I know I can happily drive this truck out on the trails and I don't have to worry about breaking the CVD in there. That's essentially how you set your endpoint. Now some radios won't have, some radios won't have EPA. A cheaper little radio may only have the dual rate set up here. If you wind your dual rate down on channel 1, which is your steering, if it's not, you've made a mistake. So if I wind the dual rate down, I get less steering. Okay? But because mine has endpoint adjustments, I will leave that at 100. Lovely. So now my truck's set up. We've done everything. We've got our servo horn, the clamp style fitted. We know it's fitted properly. We've got our wheels nice and straight. We've got our endpoint set properly. The last thing really to do is, and this is probably the easiest thing, focus back on our radio here, is the trim. So you can go to sub trim. At the moment, this is zeroed, where it should be. Now, generally speaking, when you put your servo horn on a servo, they don't always line up perfectly straight and your wheels are straight. So you may have to go into your trim or sub trim, and you can, which is channel 1, we can change this now ever so slightly. You can see the steering move, okay? And that's a way of making sure your truck goes straight when you want it to go straight, because it's really annoying when your truck doesn't go straight. It always wants to slightly turn left or right. So that's how we do it, people. Hopefully this helps some of you guys out there. Like, share and subscribe. There will be more of these videos coming up. If you've got suggestions or things you'd like to know about, let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to cover them for you. Okie dokie. Thank you very much for watching and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.